Hello and welcome to this Global Power Platform Bootcamp, and welcome to my Unified Power Platform Governance session. My name is Dr. Flo. I'm also known as Serge. I'm a Power Platform MVP based in Brussels. So I've been MVP for 19 years, and I work for Fluxys, an oil and gas company based in Brussels. So the Power Platform governance, like most governance, is about finding the good balance between autonomy and risk. So we want to increase autonomy, more self-service, for instance, but at the same time, we want to minimize risk because more autonomy means more risk most of the time, right? And trust is a nice engine for increasing autonomy at the same time. But that also means answering tons of questions like, why are you using the Power Platform? What are the strategic goals? What are the tactical goals? Because this platform has a cost, of course. So you need to justify that. Who does what? Who is responsible for what? What is the RACI? What is your environment strategy? How do you manage security? What are the different type of makers? How do you train these people? How do you industrialize the Power Platform? And so on and so on. Of course, we don't have the time to go through all the questions, and it takes time. So I promote a unified approach between Power BI or Fabric and the rest of the Power Platform. Indeed, we have often noticed that Power BI Fabric is often managed by one dedicated Power BI or Fabric team or the traditional BI team, and the rest of the Power Platform is managed by another team, which can be confusing for everyone, including the sponsors of these activities, because conceptually the challenges are the same. We have self-service. We want to promote self-service. We have citizen developers, we have BI makers, we have professional developers, we have people in between. The audience overlap. We see more and more Power BI makers becoming citizen developers, willing to use more Power Apps, Power Automate or Copilot Studio, and more citizen developers who want to integrate Power BI dashboard into their application. So the adoption concept are the same. The methodology is the same. And even sometimes, technically, we have the same technical concern, like we have an on-premise connectivity concern, right? So, yeah. So the methodology that we are promoting is called the Power Platform Factory 360. Why 360? Because it covers all aspects of the Power Platform. The technical aspect that are important and the non-technical aspect. So governance means that you need to know the technical details because you might be limited by technical details. And technical details give you more possibilities for the governance as well. Example, if you use managed environment, you can limit sharing in the default environment, right? Because sharing an application in the default environment is a risk. If you don't have the technology for doing that, you cannot limit sharing, right? And that's why you need to know that managed environment allow disabling of sharing or managing sharing, as an example. So what we have is what we call a checklist, which is a kind of spreadsheet containing several hundred of topics that must be managed if we want to put the governance in place. Technical and non-technical topics. And basically, in this approach, you need to provide two major deliverables. The first one is what we call the governance document, aka the constitution. That's a document that contains the rule of the game. So it's a living document because this document will change. It must be reviewed and approved by a group of people that we call influential friends. And of course, it takes many iterations, many meetings, several months. It must include a RACI, a responsibility matrix. I will illustrate that. And of course, it must have technical details. That's the first deliverable. The second deliverable is the maker training, aka the driving license. Or are you going to train the people? What are the reference application or report or dashboard that you're going to create during this training? However, what is very important is that before doing anything, you have to educate and define the Power Platform board. And we can do that by providing a workshop where you describe what the Power Platform is, what are the benefits, what are the risks. Right? It takes about 4 hours. And then a workshop where you explain how licensing works, because licensing is, of course, very confusing, both in the Power Platform, but also in Power BI and Fabric. What storage, the impact of licensing on storage, the concept of connectors, of throttling, and AI. So 4 hours. So that means 8 hours. Also, something painful but very important is that the customer or your team must understand that we need to go premium. We need to buy premium license. Otherwise, it's going to be very complicated to have a good return on investment of the Power Platform, right? So go premium or go home. It is your job to convince them. Of course, your customer will have to negotiate with Microsoft. But don't forget that we have an option, which is pay as you go. You can always rely on pay as you go if you want. Another topic which is painful is that you might need on-premise connectivity. So you might have to install the on-premise gateway. And that means that you need to make a kind of a security plan to install a gateway. So you need to start early with this gateway because it takes time. If you need to go through different approval layers across the company, plan this on-premise gateway quite early. Don't forget that we have another alternative. Well, it's not really an alternative. It's another technology, which is the VNet Data Gateway, where your code can look like if it was running into the customer intranet. But that's another topic. It is important to have a list of risk and to minimize this risk by providing mitigation. Short-term risk that we have identified are bugs. People create more code. They create more bugs. Lack of support. You have many people created many applications, so how are you going to support this application if people move to another team or leave the company? Several versions of the truth. You might have one version of the truth where your data is centralized in a database, but people might create applications that take a copy of your data and use this copy. And even worse, share the copy of the data, right? Data loss. Data loss means that the wrong data end up in the wrong hands. So you break security. Terrible architecture. So we have seen many people creating applications that run fine when they develop the application, but after a while in production, some issue show up. Okay, so we have that in the Power Platform. One example is the delegation issue that we might face when we use Power Apps. And shadow IT, there's no risk of shadow IT. In the Power Platform, you can see everything. So there's no shadow IT. Long-term risk is the technical debt. So people create more and more application, and this application will have to be maintained. Right? So that's a risk that you can minimize. So basically, broken data security and technical debt, which has an impact on support, are the major risk. And the best way to minimize this risk is to provide a proper training. Training is the best way to minimize all the risk. So we have created a training where we addressed most of the risk in the Power Platform. Next, we need to define a roadmap. Roadmap is important. And to define a roadmap, my recommendation is to first focus on the RACI, responsibility matrix. So this is an example of responsibility matrix that I create for customer. And in the responsibility matrix, you have all the activities that you need to tackle here. You can organize them by category. We have governance, adoption, application. You can even specify when you need to meet, the frequency of meeting, like this. You can specify in your Raki which team is responsible or must be informed or accountable for what. You see, these are the teams here. And based on that, you can generate a roadmap. Okay, this is an example of a roadmap. And it's generated from the Raki. Because indeed, if you go back to the Raki, you can have a column in place when, where you specify Q1, Q2, Q3, right? And from this, you can generate this roadmap that some people call operating model. And in this operating model, you have activities about the governance activities, the end user activities, the pro developer activities, and the power user activities. We'll get back to these categories of user a bit later. Next, it is important to have this discussion with the management, which is what is the role of the Power Platform in the IT portfolio? When and why are we going to use the Power Platform? And we use the Power Platform most of the time for strategic objectives that are the following. We want to reduce IT asphyxia because we know that there is a huge demand for creating more and more application, more and more automation. And IT cannot follow, right? So we need to find another way. And the other way is to provide some type of citizen developer that we will discuss with the tools for creating their application. We want to increase innovation. The business know what innovation means. IT does not know, right? So the business has plenty of ideas that can make the difference. So we want to give the business some tools so that they can start creating something. And the something might just be a prototype that could be taken over afterward by IT or by someone else. We want to increase IT and business productivity, so we want to automate more. You automate more, you increase productivity, and you reduce operational errors. And also, we want to reduce time to market. We want to go fast, faster than usual. And last but not least, we want to attract and keep talents. Talents and young talents don't want to use old and legacy platform, right? They want to use a platform that will make them valuable on the market as well. That's how you can attract them. Next to the strategic objective, we have tactical objective. It depends on the company. Like it could be migrating some legacy application and reports, right? Example, from some companies have Lotus Notes, and Lotus Notes is being decommissioned, and they want to migrate plenty of application running in Lotus Notes to the Power Platform, as an example. Or the company has many VBA and macro-based application, and they want to migrate that, and much more. So it all depends on the company, but usually we have a mixture of strategical objective and tactical objective. The difference between the Microsoft Power Platform and other low-code platform is that it's a platform for all makers. And AI, of course, will help. So with the Power Platform, we can create a wide range of application from the very simple one, basic one, to the highly complex application. So we have categorized the application in 4 types. If you include Power BI, it's also reports. If you include Copilot Studio, it's also about agent, right? So we have personal application agent and reports. We have application agent and report for a team of people, for a business unit, like a department or division, and cross business unit. We call that enterprise application, agent, and reports. And depending on what we want to do, we will rely on different type of makers. We don't have one category of citizen developers. There are actually several type of citizen developers because some people are more technically aware than others. So we make the distinction between citizen developers, end user, that means anyone, and these people might use the Power Platform to create personal stuff. And next to citizen developer end user, we have another type of citizen developer, the power user. So these people are a bit more technically skilled. That's the kind of people who did create macro or Excel spreadsheet in the past. So these people are, or even Access application in the past. So these people, power user, are very, very interesting people for creating Power Platform application. Right? So power user here will focus more on Teams application agent and reports or business unit application agent and reports. Again, by business unit, I mean department or division. And next to that, we have professional developers. And these people will create mostly enterprise application, agent, and reports, but they might also provide some support to the other citizen developers. So pro developers mostly belong to IT, but citizen developers belong mostly to business. There are exceptions because you can have citizen developers in IT as well. And people who are occasional developers, but that's not their day-to-day activity. What is very important is this arrow here down below. Because what we want is taking the ideas of citizen developer and making them application. And some ideas can be very useful, not just to a department, but also cross department to the whole enterprise. So they have ideas, right? So we want to take their ideas and to crystallize their idea into application, agents, or reports. So this is important again. Now the question is, how can you have a support at scale? Because plenty of people will create application. So basically, here in this slide, you can see the business, right? So we have different business units. Okay, that's a business. And in this business unit, a few people, just a few, here, people in blue, will start creating stuff. So these people need to be able to communicate with their internal community. So you can create a corporate Power Platform use group just by creating a team. So these people can go to the team and ask questions. And the internal community will provide some guidance, provide some help. But they should also be able to go to the Microsoft News Group because there are some free Microsoft News Group in the web where Microsoft employee or other members of the platform community can provide some help, some guidance as well for free. So that's why you need to have power users. So power user can guide people of their business unit. So you might have citizen developer here, but you also have next to this power user, right? So, and you need to have a good army, a big army of power user, because they will help the end user. And they will also create application agent and reports, of course. And next to that, we have professional developers who will read the message in the news group, will try to answer the message, will try to help. But pro developers can also work together with power user and sometimes end user. The pro developers usually belong to the Power Platform Center of Excellence, the COE. We'll get back to the COE organization. That said, like in any project, our customer don't like big bang. Avoid big bang adoption. We want to go step by step. Use Wave, create pilots. That means that you need to have first professional developers in place belonging to IT, and then power user. So with power user, you will create pilots. Right? So you need a limited number of power user. And you will include more and more power user. Right? And when you have a lot of power user, then you can start with end user. It's not exactly the same training. Yeah? So in the pilots, what you will do is these activities. So first training. So you have a set of people who will train. Then after the training, they will start creating something, dev. They need to be aware that they need to test what they did. Then they can move their stuff to production, or they can ask IT to move their stuff to production. And then they need to provide feedback to the COE about how this worked. And you have all these activities again and again and again, like this. You see? So that's important. After some time, you need to increase your effort into adoption. Try to bring more power user, more end user, so you'll get more application, agent, and reports created. So this increase the return on investment of your Power Platform. Remember, you need to buy premium license. So that means there is a cost. So you need to prove that this Power Platform is worthwhile. Next, you need to secure the platform. So it's a huge topic, but to secure the platform perimeter, you need to first assign Power Platform administrator. So you need to specify who can be Power Platform administrator. Prevent people from creating environment and Power BI workspace. This should be only limited to admins. Isolate the tenant. So prevent people from accessing your tenant from another tenant, or accessing another tenant from your tenant, unless your company has several tenants. There are a lot of Power BI tenant settings that we need to check. We don't have the time to go through these settings. Prevent people from sending email outside. So block email outside, because what we want to prevent is that people create Power Automate flow that grab document from your intranet and send this document outside. So you can put a rule in Exchange that prevent Power Automate and Power Apps from sending email outside. And people who want to really send email outside need to be on a whitelist. Block AI Builder. By default, AI Builder should not be available. So you need to allow AI Builder only in some specific environment. Create a security group for Copilot Studio makers. Okay. So that's a new option in the Power Platform tenant. And later, you can define environment and DLP policy. You can whitelist, and that's also very important. Don't forget to whitelist the Power Platform URL and IP ranges. You'll find them in the documentation. Otherwise, some features of the Power Platform might not work correctly. Prevent people from creating Power Page sites. Okay. And extend backup retention to 28 days. And you can do that if your environment is a managed environment, because by default it's 7 days, but 28 days is not that much, but still better than 7 days. And yeah, that's one of the benefits of using premium license. All right. The next step is to create a dedicated center of excellence. By center of excellence, I don't mean the tool, I mean the organization. And this center of excellence can be unified if you want to include Fabric, Power BI Fabric. So basic conceptually, it looks like this. So you have the platform COE containing two parts, application flows agent on one side, and Power BI and Fabric on the other side. And you have the same management structure. Okay, same team, same organization, just different people. Or you can have two COE, right? So Power BI Fabric COE managed by one manager, and the Power Platform COE managed by someone else, right? You can choose. But anyway, in both cases, the scope of the center of excellence is the following. So you need to do mentoring. You need to mentor people. You need to have training material that you need to keep up to date. You need to have a list of best practice, the do and the don't in your company, like do you need to use service account? Can you create stuff with your personal account or with the service account? Or should you create an application or a flow with the service account, but then when you want to change the flow or the application, should you use your personal account? So things like this must be documented. You need to do what I call technology watch, triage, because there are plenty of things that Microsoft create and put in the Power Platform, in preview or not preview. So it's up to you to analyze this and to check what you're gonna share with the citizen developers or what you're gonna use in the COE. Governance guidelines, or what people need to do if they want to start a new project. Do they need one or several environments? They need a service account. They need license. How can they get license? Things like this. Are you going to associate security group with the different environment or not? You need, of course, to monitor the platform. And very important, you need to have a service catalog. So a place where people can go to request something. It could be through a ticket system, but that's important. You need to be able to develop proof of concept, and you need to have application template or reports templates or agent templates that people can reuse. So example of implementation that can inspire people. And the consequence of this is that you need to have different roles, and sometimes the same person can have several roles. So you need to have someone who owns the platform, product owner. Could be technical owner or administrative owner. You need to have someone who check the architecture of application that people will create. Solution architect. Operation officer. So who will manage the infrastructure? Who will check the storage? Who will check how many people use the create application? Who will check all the settings of the platform? Right? That's the role of operation officer. Your training is important part of your governance. So you need a trainer, you need a coach, people who will train but will also do the training follow-up. You need to provide support to makers. You need to have to create and to grow a community. With this community, you will organize session every month where you will present new feature, where you will present new application created by other people. Okay, so you need these people, and you need professional developers for the data and application professional developer for application agent and maybe AI. Okay, you need these roles. Again, same person might potentially endorse several roles. This is an example of COE site, okay, Center of Excellence site. So people can get to this site to receive or to ask for something, right? And this, the homepage of the COE should be very simple. So you describe what we do in your company with the Power Platform. You specify how people can start. You specify that if people need something, they can go there and ask it. The best practice and the standard, and a pointer to the community. So this can point to a team, and in the team, for each product, you can have one channel, for instance. So example, if people click here, I need something, then they will see this. I need help. I need an environment. I need a connector. I need a Power Platform license. I need to recover, backup an environment. I want to discuss an ID for an application, and so on. So this is the service catalog. And behind this, when people click here, they can be redirected to the ITSM tool, which could be ServiceNow, OmniTracker, or whatever. Next, you need to monitor, you need to govern your Power Platform. And to do this, you have to install an important tool called the Power Platform COE Starter Kit. You cannot manage the Power Platform without the COE Starter Kit. So there are several components of the COE Starter Kit. I don't want to go through the details of this Starter Kit, but what you need to know is that in the COE Starter Kit, you can proceed to 3 main activities: monitoring, governance, and adoption, that we call nurturing here. This starter kit must be upgraded every 3 months. That's important. So there is some effort to do if you want to keep this starter kit. Now, the Power Platform Administration Center get more and more information. So you get more and more option and information in this Power Platform Administration Center kit, but it does not mean that you don't need the Power Platform Series Starter Kit. You still need it. So there are some overlap between the Power Platform Administration Center, but you still need to use the Power Platform Starter Kit. So then plenty of new feature that we see in the Power Platform Administration Center. You can monitor, Power Automate, Power Apps, and even agent from the Power Platform Administration Center. Don't forget to regularly check the Message Center, and you can filter on the category Power Platform, and this will give you new feature that will be available in your tenant. So there's no equivalent of the Power BI, of the Power Platform COE Starter Kit in Power BI. However, you have other options. One of them is the FueOM, which is a tool provided by Microsoft that also provides some stuff on Power BI. So I will skip this because we just focus on the Power Platform side. But keep in mind that FueOM is something important. So FueOM means Fabric Unified Administrator Monitoring Tool. Next, you have to define what we call the container strategy. And the container means for Power Apps, Power Automate, Copilot Studio environment, and for Power BI, that's Workspace. So you can have a similar strategy between them. But in this presentation, I will focus on environment. Nevertheless, you can, for instance, use the same naming convention between environment and workspace. In both cases, environment and workspace must be created and managed by administrator. Now, what are the environment strategy in Power Apps, Power Automate, and Copilot Studio Agent? You know that everyone is a maker in the default environment, right? And developer and power user should be able to request 3 developer environments because these environments are free. They are free, so why not? And power user and professional developer should be able to request additional environment because developer environment are environment that have some limitation, like limited in storage, and you are not supposed to create production stuff in developer environment, right? They are very nice for testing stuff, for proof of concept. Huh? But if you want to really create stuff that eventually will be deployed to production, you need to, so power user and ProDev must request other type of environment. And this must be monitored by the COE. And if we create enterprise application, right? The naming convention that I follow for enterprise application is for environment hosting enterprise application is the following. So let's say I'm creating an application that manage expense, where we can manage expense. So I will request an environment for this application. So it makes sense to have one environment for each enterprise application. But since it's enterprise application, the name of the environment, in my case, will start with ENT, means enterprise. So you have ENT, the name of the application, underscore dev. You have another one, underscore test, another one, UAT or qualification, and one production. And of course, what you create here would be deployed from dev to test to UAT to production. Of course, we work in the production tenant mainly because having two tenants, one for test, one for production, is very complicated to manage because you have to duplicate license. What is important is that you need to have some control gate. At least the deployment from test to production should ideally be managed by IT, by some specific people in IT. They will check that everything is fine, that you follow some rules, and they might deploy that for you. It's a control gate. Now, that's for enterprise application. But what about division and department application? Most of the time, people just need a dev and a test. They can request UAT, but usually dev and test is enough for this type of application. And the naming convention for the environment is the following. If it's a division, then it's div underscore the name of the division. If it's a department, you can specify div underscore the name of the division underscore the name of the department, right? Same for test, same for production. And many companies want to have a control gate here where IT will deploy stuff to production. Now, some application don't follow the enterprise organization, enterprise hierarchy. And we call that domain application. So like, for instance, in some financial institution, you can have cross-domain application like funds. So funds means that it's a kind of interaction between several division or several department in different division, meaning that you cannot follow this naming convention, right? Loans or banking like this. You can have dev, test, and then deployment to production by IT. Example, the naming convention for this kind of application, well, the naming convention for the environment hosting this kind of application will be the following. In my case, domain underscore, this, for instance, you see, funds, sanction, dev, test, etc. It is important to use service account in test and in production. Okay, so the deployment of your application should be done with service account. Okay, not personal account, of course. My recommendation is also to use manage environment everywhere, which gives you a lot of plenty of options, like you can extend backup retention, you can prevent sharing. It is important to prevent sharing in dev and test, for instance. So all this stuff is available if you use manage environment. The same ALM, so application lifecycle management logic and naming convention, can also apply to Power BI Workspace. Huh? That's nice. Now the question is, how do you define the access group of your environment? What I do is the following. In your dev, test, UAT, and production environment, you first define a group associated with the environment. So only people of this group can access the environment. So you put a boundary to this environment. One for test, one for dev, one for test, UAT, and one for production. Okay. Next, you need to have a group for the people who can create application in the dev environment. And you need to have a group for people who will be administrator of this environment. Okay. Same for test. Test, I usually create a group for people who are administrator of the application. Next to the group of people who are environment administrator, because sometimes in some application, some people have a special role, application administrator. So you need to replicate this to UAT, to production, but that's optional, right? But keep that in mind. It's a good pattern, right? Next, we need to talk about policies and data governance. We don't have the time to go into the detail, but any data that you store and that you manage must follow some data governance framework in terms of quality, sensitivity, criticality, security, and ownership. You know that we have DLP policies in the Power Platform. Example, by default, you can block any new connectors because Microsoft provide plenty of new connectors every month in the Power Platform. So by default, new connectors should be blocked by default. You allow only Microsoft Service connectors in a group called the business group. Then you block by default any third-party connectors. You put exception that we will see. Exception are defined here. Adobe, most of the time, people want the same connectors. Adobe, ServiceNow, Salesforce, Oracle. I see more and more Databricks as well. So block some Copilot Studio connectors like chat without Entra ID, Facebook channel, direct line channels. There are other connectors that you need to block for Copilot Studio. New action in the connector should be blocked. You see that within the same connectors you have action. So by default, any new action should be blocked in the settings here of every connectors. Review the new connectors every month. So analyze all the new connectors that Microsoft provides in the platform. Discuss that with the Power Platform community, the internal Power Platform community, and also the security team to see which connector might be interesting. And the next part is about education. So that's what I call data and apps culture. So people need to have some culture if you want them to be able to create great reports, application, and agent. And so educating citizen developer is extremely important. So basically everybody in the company should follow at least 2 hours or between 2 and 3 hours of training about what is the Power Platform, what are the risks, what are the benefits, why are we using the Power Platform, and how can we consume a report. You see? I say everybody because the management is interested into what the Power Platform is, and they need to know if some of their people can start automating something, right? So that's important. Then end user must follow a training about creating a simple application, a simple flow, a simple report, and a simple agent. It can take a day. But then we have power user. And the power user training, if you include Power BI, the power user training will take 6 days. So Power user will learn about creating application, flow, agent, and report from scratch. And then you will explain what are the best practices in place in the company. And when they follow your training, they are certified. And when they are certified, they, well, it's an internal certification, of course. They are supposed to be able to start creating applications. So they can request an environment, dev environment, test environment, production environment. They have the possibility to create support ticket if there's any issue because they are power user. So they follow the training, right? End users are not supposed to be able to create support ticket for the Power Platform. It should be restricted to only power user, in my opinion. But professional developers also must be educated because you have plenty of professional developers who don't know what the Power Platform is. You have .NET developers, you have Java developers, and some of these people want to become pro developers. It's a good stuff. So that means that these people must follow the citizen developer training. That means at least 6 days. Okay, that's what I showed you in the slide before. But I need also an advanced training because there are stuff not covered in the citizen developer training that they need to be aware of, like how to create plugins. That's .NET plugins. More details about dataverse security, more information about architecture, how to reuse code, how to create custom connector, all the application lifecycle management, like how to use DevOps pipelines, and how to use AI, including Azure Foundry, for instance, just to name that. And so that means 4 additional days of training. Now, your community is growing and you want to keep it growing, right? So you need to spend more time, spend more money into adoption activities. As I mentioned before, if you want to grow a community, you need to have one single site for the Power Platform COE where people can get in order to ask for something, right? And what you need to do is the COE team must organize this stuff. So you need to have a news group where you have one channel by product. You need to nominate champion. You need to update the reference application, the reference dashboard, the reference agent, based on the question that you get in the news group. You must encourage people to follow the training, the course. You need to have a weekly meeting for the COE team where you analyze the frequent problems tackled by the community in the news group. You need to create a frequent asked question, and you need to feed an agent with this frequent asked question. So people should be able to talk to the agent to ask for help, and that's important. The adoption activities are the following. Every month, you need to organize a show and tell session. You must every month celebrate success stories. You need to put the light on some application or some agent or some reports created by member of the Power Platform community. You need to encourage makers to become ambassador across their department. Every week or every 2 weeks, you need to organize what we call the Ask Me Anything. You organize a meeting, people can join the meeting for free, and they can ask whatever they want. Okay? So it's open door policy, if you like. You have to organize a workshop on new features, boot camps, and important to have a newsletter. So basically, if you want the adoption to work, you need to follow what we call the ATCAR principle. So ATCAR means focusing on awareness, on desire, on knowledge, so more training, on ability, make sure that people can practice what they learn, and reinforcement, right? So these are important concepts that really work. It's an industry standard. We need to talk about application lifecycle management in the Power Platform. because that's important. And when we talk about that, we mean two things. There are actually two scenarios. The simple one. So the simple scenario is we create stuff and we deploy from dev to test to production. That's basically very easy because you can deploy solution manually from dev to test to production. You can have a control gate where IT will deploy to production, right? That's easy. You can also automate that deployment. In Power BI, we have what we call Power BI pipelines. We also have the Power Platform pipelines. Or if we want to use Azure DevOps, we can leverage what we call the Power Platform build tools and Azure DevOps. Or we can even use GitHub to deploy our stuff from one environment to the other. But then you have the complex scenario. The complex scenario is you have a version of your stuff, your report, your agent, or your application in production, right? But you have another version, new version in development. And then you have a bug in production. And you need to fix this bug in production. But you also need to fix this bug in the development version. Okay? So you need to have the source code of V1 and you need to have the source code of V2. So you need source control. You need branching, you need merging. And that's why you need to use Git. And we have Git integration for citizen developers. Mostly it is important for power user, where you can have different branches and you can see exactly who changed what in the source code. That's important. So the ALM technologies that we have are the following. It depends on the audience. For ProDev and power user, we have Git in Azure DevOps, and that's the source control. The pipeline is Power BI pipelines, and you can have branching. For Power Platform, we have for professional and power user. For the source control is Git in Azure DevOps, and we can use the Power Platform pipeline to deploy the solution. Or we can use, but that's more interesting for professional developer, for deploying, for the pipeline, we can use the Azure DevOps tool. And we also have tools in the GitHub for the source control and also for the pipeline, but that's more for professional developers. So as a conclusion, we can say that defining and implementing the Power Platform governance takes a lot of work. It takes a month. So we propose a checklist that we have tested on the field, and it makes sense to have a single COE for both the Power Platform and Power BI and Fabric. It is important to identify the risk, and training is the most efficient way to mitigate this risk. You cannot do this, you cannot put this Power Platform governance in place alone. It takes a village. You need a Raki. You have to discuss, you have to interact with many teams. Okay? So I hope that you enjoy this session, and thank you very much. Hello and welcome to this Global Power Platform Bootcamp, and welcome to my Unified Power Platform Governance session. My name is Dr. Flo. I'm also known as Serge Luca. I'm a Power Platform MVP based in Brussels. So I've been MVP for 19 years, and I work for Fluxys, an oil and gas company based in Brussels.